Donald Trump's been quiet for a good few weeks, but he emerged this week with a mask on for the first time.
Politics is crucial. It's an election year. Mr. Trump got elected the first time being a very judicious user of Twitter and appealing to a certain part of the US population. And it will be interesting to see how that unfolds in a situation where, in all likelihood, if we look at sort of the COVID data in the US, social distancing remains required. And the razzmatazz that normally goes with a presidential election with the Democrats and Joe Biden and their various conventions, well, that maybe can't happen to the same extent.
Jeff, do you think then that will introduce an element of the candidate with the deepest pockets who can buy the advertising space will be the winner?
It may do, and we certainly saw how buying advertising can be very helpful in terms of what happened within the Democratic Party. But I suppose ultimately, what is it that's really important when it comes down to this and typically gets US presidents re-elected? It's the state of the economy. Yeah. And that is, I suppose, the point that why Trump and others maybe in the US administration have been keen to get the economy reopened and to get it moving ahead, because having negative figures associated with industrial production, retail sales, etc., would just not be the type of headlines an incumbent president is looking for as he is seeking re-election.
Sure. Mm-hmm.
Just building on what Jeff was saying, I think if you look back at history and you look back at the US election years, they tend to be very good for stock market performance overall. And I think it will be really interesting this year because you do have the challenge of COVID-19 to see if actually that can be recreated.
It sort of talks to some of the things we've heard from the managers when they're sort of saying that the US has potentially opened a bit more aggressively than initial expectations of it doing that, just so as you both Jeff and Chris have alluded to there, the sort of connection of stock market performance and sort of potential chances of getting re-elected.
I think that's an interesting point, Matt, to bring up, because that's what we've started to see in some of the higher frequency data, where we've seen the infection rate pick up in a number of states, and those states that the infection rate does pick up with the beauty of technology and the more timely data that we can get. You see social mobility, you see transport trends changing really quickly, and that does definitely impact what people do. And I suppose ultimately, why is that important? Because what people do brings about economic growth, and there's a very strong correlation between the two. If we're all stuck at home, as we were in the UK, we see what happens to economic data.